Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Apart from the Sahihain, which are the two hadith books of Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim Rahimahumullah, there are many other books of hadith as well. But there are four famous ones. Together with the Sahihain, they make up what is known as the Sihah al-Sittah, the six authentic books of hadith. And out of these four books of hadith, excluding the Sahihain, the most authentic one is the one which we know as Sunan An Nasaai, written by Imaam An Nasaai Rahimahullah. Imaam An Nasaai Rahimahullah's full name was Ahmad ibn Shu'aib ibn Ali ibn Sinan ibn Bahr al-Khurasani An Nasaai. He was of Persian origin, born in the year 215 after Hijrah, in the town of Nasa, which is in present-day Turkmenistan. Imaam An Nasaai Rahimahullah studied under many of the great ulama of his time, one of whom being Imam Abu Dawud as-Sijistani Rahimahullah, the compiler of the book which we know as Sunan Abu Dawud. Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah was exceptional in every sense of the word. He was an all-rounder. In every aspect and every field he stood out. In the field of hadith he was brilliant. His memory was unmatched. The ulama have mentioned that he had a photographic memory. So he would read something and memorize it immediately and never slip up on it. His memory was so excellent that the ulama ranked him on par with Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. That is how high and how great he was that they considered him of that level. More than just the memorization of the ahadith itself, Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah also specialized and excelled in the science which is known as Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil, which is the science relating to the narrators of the ahadith, who each narrator is, if he is reliable or not reliable. If he is reliable, then why and who graded him as such? And if he is unreliable, then what was the reason for that and which ulama said that about him? Each and every detail, where they lived, where they were born, where they passed away, who they studied by, what they did, everything. Their entire lives is this science of Al-Jarh wa Ta'dil. After traveling the world in search of knowledge and taking a hadith from around the Muslim world, eventually Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah decided to settle in Egypt. And after he made that his base, students and ulama from around the world began to flock to Egypt to attend the lessons of Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah. At the time when he lived in Egypt, the ulama said that there was no one in the entire Egypt that was more knowledgeable in hadith, in the knowledge of the narrators of the ahadith, or in fiqh than Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah. So well recognized was he for his knowledge that even the normal people in the street would refer to him as Hafidhul Hadith, the memorizer of the ahadith. Not only was Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah a great scholar, but he was also a brave mujahid as well. When the call used to be made for jihad, Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah would always respond and be amongst the first to take part at the front line, ready to give his life for the sake of Allah. Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah is described by the ulama as being extremely handsome. Up until the day that he passed away in his old age at the age of 88 years old, he still had not lost his handsomeness, and his face always continued to shine throughout his life. Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah was also very far removed from being a monk, because at one time during his life, and thus continued throughout his life, he had 4 wives and 2 slave girls, and he would spend time with each one of them as per the demands of the Sharia. All of this did not hinder him from being a devout worshipper of Allah, because despite having 4 wives and 2 slave girls, despite being a famous scholar of hadith, despite being a mujahid, he would still fast the fast of Hazrat Dawood alayhi salam, which is to fast every second day. And apart from this, he would then spend his nights in the ibadah of Allah, performing salah and other good deeds. Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah also authored a number of kitabs of great benefit. Incidentally, the kitab which we know as Sunan An Nasaai is actually divided into 2. Originally, Imam An Nasaai Rahimahullah compiled a book of hadith, wherein he listed authentic ahadith as well as some with weak chains of narration. This he named Sunan Al-Kubra. Later on, he compiled another book of hadith. this time not including those with the weak chains, and he named this Al-Mujtaba. It is also known as Sunan al-Sughra, and it is this one which we know and refer to when we speak of Sunan An Nasaai. A person may ask the question that why report those narrations which have weak chains at all? The thing is that Allah had given these muhaddithin a deep insight, so they were well aware that the ahadith that they had collected was not all the ahadith in existence. So they kept the narrations which had weak chains, so that if some other muhaddith came across the hadith with a different chain of narration which was stronger, then it would strengthen this narration as well, thereby raising its level and removing it from being deemed weak. That is why most of the ulama did not restrict themselves to only compiling books containing a hadith with authentic chains. And in hindsight today, we can see the benefit of it. Because through the hadith sciences, we know that when a hadith exists with multiple chains of narration, then those chains can be gathered together, and that would give it strength and raise it to the level of acceptance. And even if they are not supporting chains for it, but it is not graded as being a fabrication, then too the muhaddithin and fuqaha have explained to us in which ways we can use such narrations. So it is through the great sacrifices that the ulama had made for the deen, and they made it so easy for us that today everything looks easy. And the only reason that people think this way is because they don't know the amount of effort that went into all of this, so that we have everything served to us like this on a silver platter. May Allah accept their sacrifices and grant us the ability to appreciate what all they had done for us and for this deen. آمين يا رب العالمين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.